The morning wind bit through the quiet outskirts of Milltown, tugging at the flannel collar of Henry's old jacket as he trudged down the well-worn dirt path. It was a route he knew like the back of his hand, every stone and bend a silent companion over the years. But today, something felt off up ahead. A stray German shepherd stood rigid near a mound of trash, barking relentlessly into the stillness. It wasn't the usual bark of a hungry stray. It was sharp, urgent, almost desperate. Curious and slightly uneasy, Henry quickened his pace. As he drew closer, the dog backed away slightly, but kept growling at the pile. Henry frowned, pushing aside a torn tarp and some discarded boxes. What he uncovered beneath them made his breath hitch and his heart pound. It was something no one in Milltown could have ever imagined. At 68, Henry preferred the stillness of early mornings, a time when the world had not yet stirred. His boots crunched lightly over the frost-covered leaves, and his breath came out in slow, visible puffs. The retired Army veteran had walked this trail every morning for nearly 15 years, ever since he had moved to this quiet edge of town. After his wife passed, it gave him a sense of purpose, a quiet routine, in a life that no longer held much noise. But that morning, the quiet was shattered. A sharp, frantic barking rang out across the trees, urgent, relentless, unlike anything Henry had heard before. It came from the direction of an old, overgrown dumping site, just off the trail, a place most people avoided. The barking grew louder, faster, more desperate. Something about it made the hairs on the back of his neck rise. He paused, squinting toward the trees. Was it a coyote, a dog in trouble? Curiosity pushed him forward. As he stepped through the thinning brush and approached the edge of the clearing, the scene before him made him freeze. A German shepherd, filthy, ribs protruding beneath matted fur, eyes wild but somehow piercing, was circling a large pile of trash. Its barking never paused, not even when it noticed Henry. Instead of aggression, the dog radiated a focused urgency, darting between Henry and the trash heap. Then back again, barking louder, as if begging him to follow. Henry had seen enough in his years to recognize when something was wrong. "Easy, boy," he muttered, cautiously stepping closer. The dog backed away a little, but did not leave. It stayed near the pile. Old boxes, crumpled bags, broken furniture, its body tense, tail rigid, eyes locked onto Henry with a strange intelligence. Something was definitely there. He knelt beside the mess, pushing aside a torn blanket and an old cardboard box. That was when he heard it. Soft. So soft he thought it might have been his imagination at first. A whimper. Not from a dog, but from something smaller, weaker. His heart pounded as he tore deeper into the pile, tossing aside plastic and wood. Then, his hands froze. There, nestled among a torn towel and partially covered by a damp coat, was a baby. An actual human baby, tiny, pale. Its lips were slightly blue, and it trembled violently in the cold morning air. Henry's breath caught in his throat. For a moment the world around him vanished. No trees, no wind, no barking, just the fragile life in his arms, and the dog, now sitting beside him, quiet for the first time, watching. Henry's hands trembled as he fumbled for his phone. The baby cradled in one arm, so tiny and fragile, it barely weighed anything. He quickly dialed 911, his voice urgent and strained as he relayed their location, shouting over the barking of the dog, now circling him once more. "There's a baby. Abandoned. Freezing. Yes. Near the old dump by Oak Ridge Trail. Hurry!" he gasped. Without thinking, Henry shrugged off his heavy coat and wrapped it tightly around the child, cocooning the newborn in layers of warmth. The baby whimpered faintly, but its eyes fluttered, still clinging to life. Henry knelt low, shielding it from the biting wind. As he did, the German Shepherd crept closer, slowly, almost cautiously. Then, without prompting, it curled its thin, filthy body around the baby, pressing close to the bundle of coat and flesh, its breathing calm, its eyes closed. Henry was stunned. The dog was not trying to take over or interfere. It was trying to help. Minutes passed like hours. Henry kept glancing down at the baby, then at the dog, whose body trembled from cold, but refused to move away. When the sound of sirens finally broke the silence, Henry stood and waved desperately. The ambulance skidded to a halt at the trailhead, and paramedics sprinted toward them. "This way. Over here." Henry nodded. "Not me," he said quietly, looking down at the shepherd. "Him." The child was rushed into the ambulance, where warmth, oxygen, and expert hands took over. One medic stayed behind to speak with Henry, along with a pair of arriving police officers. Henry explained everything he had seen, the barking, the dog's insistence, the way it had tried to show him where to look. The officers exchanged looks of disbelief. "You're saying a stray dog saved this baby?" one asked. "I'm telling you the truth," Henry replied, voice steady. "That dog didn't just find her. He kept her warm. He saved her life." Animal control soon arrived, approaching the shepherd cautiously with gloves and poles. But the dog did not growl. It only stared at Henry, tail low, body language uncertain. They managed to coax it into a transport cage with food, though it hesitated until Henry gently nodded and whispered, "It's okay now, boy. You did good." At the local rescue shelter, the dog was examined. No collar, no microchip. Likely abandoned itself weeks ago. The staff tried to care for him, but he refused to eat. He ignored the other dogs. He spent every moment staring at the exit, flinching at every sound, clearly waiting for something or someone. Days later, Henry returned to check on him. As soon as the shepherd saw him, it stood up, tail twitching with cautious hope. When the staff member unlocked the pen, the dog bolted, not to escape, but straight into Henry's legs. It pressed its head into his knees, body trembling, whining softly like a child finally reunited with a parent. The staff stood in stunned silence. Henry knelt, gently placing a hand on the dog's head. "I guess you picked me, huh?" he murmured. When they tried to lead the dog back to its kennel, it resisted, digging in its paws, pulling at the leash until it slipped free. It ran straight back to Henry again, pressing close, as if begging not to be left behind. Henry, eyes misting, looked up at the staff. "I can't leave him here," he said, voice cracking. He already saved a life. Maybe now it's time someone saves his. From the moment Henry brought the dog home, it was clear that this was no ordinary animal. He named him Brave, because from the first step they took together outside the shelter, the dog never left his side, following so closely behind him that it was as if he had become part of Henry's own Brave. Brave seemed to understand that this old man had chosen him, not just out of pity, but out of something deeper. Recognition, perhaps. Two wounded souls, both alone for too long, quietly agreeing to share whatever days they had left. The first week was rough. Brave flinched at sudden movements, refused to sleep indoors, and barked in his sleep as if haunted by nightmares. But Henry was patient. He placed a soft blanket in the corner of the living room, cooked rice and chicken for him, and sat nearby each night, humming old war songs, until the dog calmed. Slowly, Brave began to trust. By the second week, Brave had gained weight. His fur, once dull and matted, started to shine. He followed hand signals, responded to his name, and learned to walk without a leash, never straying far, always checking back, as if to ask, "Am I doing all right?" Henry would smile, give a slight nod, and Brave's tail would wag with pride. For the first time in years, Henry laughed out loud. He found himself waking up with more energy, eager to step outside, to walk with Brave along the trails, to greet neighbors who stopped to marvel at the now vibrant shepherd trotting beside him. "Is that the hero dog?" they would ask. Henry would grin. "That's Brave. He saved a baby's life and rescued an old man's heart in the process." Children would pet him, and Brave, once jumpy and shy, now leaned into their hands gently, tail wagging. He had become the unofficial mascot of the neighborhood, the dog who barked at trash and found a miracle. One quiet afternoon, Henry sat in his recliner with a warm mug of tea, flipping through TV channels, when a local news story caught his attention. The infant found abandoned last month near the Oak Ridge Trail has made a full recovery and has been adopted by a loving family. Doctors say it was a miracle she survived the cold. Henry stared at the screen, his chest tightening with something between pride and awe. He turned to Brave, who lay curled at his feet. "You did that?" Henry said softly. Brave's ears perked. "You really saved a life." The room felt full, alive with something invisible but powerful. Hope, maybe, or healing. But peace rarely lasts forever. One night, heavy rain lashed against the windows, thunder rolled in waves, and wind whistled under the doors. Henry was sound asleep when a sharp bark jolted him awake. Another bark, louder, urgent, Brave, was at the bedroom door, tail straight, eyes wide, barking toward the front of the house. "What is it, boy?" Henry asked, swinging his legs out of bed. But Brave did not wait. He dashed down the hallway, barking frantically. Henry followed, heart pounding. Through the rain-streaked window, a movement caught his eye. Something or someone creeping along the side of the house. A dark figure hunched low, moving toward the back door. Brave growled, low and menacing, and lunged toward the door, scratching, snarling, ready to defend. Henry's hand trembled on the light switch. Someone was out there, and Brave, once astray, forgotten in the cold, was now the only thing standing between his new home and something far more dangerous than loneliness. The rain fell harder now, sheets of water slamming against the windows as thunder roared overhead. Henry stood frozen in the hallway, his eyes straining to follow the Brave figure sneaking along the side of the house. Brave was a blur of motion, barking, growling, his body tense and ready to strike. Without hesitation, Brave bolted toward the back door, paws skidding across the hardwood floor as he scratched at the doorknob. Henry, heart thudding in his chest, yanked open the door, and in an instant, Brave shot into the night. The figure turned, startled by the sudden appearance of the barking shepherd. He took off running through the yard, jumping over the fence, stumbling in the mud, but Brave was faster. Driven by something far stronger than instinct, he chased with pure determination. Henry stepped outside, rain soaking his clothes, calling out, "Brave! Come back! Be careful!" But the dog was gone, swallowed by the darkness. Minutes later, just when fear began to take hold, Henry heard a distant commotion. Tires screeched, shouting echoed through the storm. Red and blue lights flashed between the trees as two police cruisers pulled up on the far side of the neighborhood. Henry rushed barefoot through the wet grass, his heart in his throat. There, in the light of a street lamp, Brave stood with his teeth bared, growling, one paw firmly on the chest of a man pinned to the ground. The suspect's jacket was torn, mud smeared across his face, a knife lying a few feet away. Two officers cautiously approached, weapons drawn. "It's okay, boy," one officer said as they moved in. "You got him. Good job." Brave backed away, only when Henry called him softly. The shepherd trotted to his side, soaked, shaking. but eyes alert and proud. As the officers cuffed the man, one of them turned to Henry. "Do you know what you've got there?" Henry blinked, confused. "A dog that just saved my life." The officer nodded. "And then some. That man is wanted in 3 states. He's been hiding out around here for weeks. We've had break-ins, thefts. He's been casing homes. Looks like he picked the wrong one tonight." Word spread fast. By morning, local news vans lined the quiet street. Reporters knocked on Henry's door, asking to meet the heroic German Shepherd who had stopped a criminal in his tracks. Photos of Brave, sitting calmly beside Henry, with his wet fur brushed and his eyes shining, made the front page of the town paper the next day. Rescue dog turns rescuer again. Children came by to drop off homemade treats. The fire department brought him a special badge and a red bandana with hero stitched in gold. At his next checkup, the town's vet shook his head in amazement. "You know, I've worked with dogs for 30 years, but this one's different. Loyal, smart, fearless, and after everything he's been through, it's incredible." Henry looked at Brave then, who lay peacefully at his feet, one ear flicking at the sound of the vet's voice. "I thought I was saving him," Henry said in a soft voice during an interview with the local news. His eyes grew misty. "I really believed that. But the truth is, he's the one who saved me." And as the camera panned out, capturing the two sitting side by side, one old, one loyal, both survivors, it was clear to anyone watching that the bond between them was something far more powerful than fate. It was love, earned and returned, one life-saving act at a time. The seasons rolled gently forward, and life for Henry and Brave settled into a peaceful, well-worn rhythm. Each morning began with their quiet walk along the same old trail where fate had first brought them together, and each evening ended the same way, with Brave curled at Henry's feet by the fireplace, the gentle crackling of logs filling the silence between them. Their bond only grew stronger with time, a companionship built not just on habit, but on healing. Henry, once reserved and haunted by solitude, now smiled more easily, laughed more often, and Brave, once broken and afraid, had become a steady, calming presence. Not just for Henry, but for others as well. Every Thursday they visited the town's children's center, where Brave had quickly become a beloved guest. The kids, many of them facing struggles too big for their small shoulders, lit up the moment Brave walked through the door in his little blue therapy vest. They would sit in circles and read to him, resting against his strong frame, as if he were a living, breathing teddy bear. Brave never barked, never flinched, just listened. Quiet, patient, a soft heartbeat in a noisy world. "He doesn't talk, but he understands," one child said, and everyone believed it was true. Henry often sat nearby, hands folded in his lap, watching it all with quiet wonder. Sometimes, when no one was looking, he would whisper a thank you to the dog beside him, a thank you for saving more than just one life. As the years passed, Henry wrote a letter, something he kept tucked away in a drawer just in case. In neat handwriting he wrote, "If this note is found after I'm gone, please take care of Brave. He's not just a dog. He is family. He saved my life more times than I can count. I hope he spends the rest of his days with someone who loves him as much as I do, because he deserves nothing less." But fate had other plans. Brave lived long, longer than anyone expected. Even as his muzzle turned gray and his pace slowed, he remained faithfully at Henry's side. When Henry napped on the porch, Brave lay beneath his rocking chair. When Henry read at night, Brave would rest his head on the old man's slipper, never more than a few feet apart, always watching, always near. And when the time finally came, when the house grew quieter and the porch no longer creaked under Henry's boots, Brave stayed. He wandered a little slower, waited a little longer at the door, as if still listening for his friend's voice. But those who knew them said the bond never broke. Their story spread beyond the town. Visitors came just to see the bench placed beneath the old oak on the trail, where a small plaque read, "In honor of Henry, and brave 2 hearts, 1 soul." People sat there, sometimes in silence, sometimes with dogs of their own, reflecting on what it meant to be saved, and to save in return. And so the legend of a stray dog and a lonely old man lived on, not just as a tale of rescue, but as a quiet, enduring reminder that love, true, unconditional love, can come when you least expect it and change everything. If this story touched your heart, just like Brave touched the lives of everyone he met, we invite you to join us for more real-life tales of courage, loyalty, and the unbreakable bond between humans and animals. There are countless unsung heroes, like Brave out there, waiting to be found, to be loved, and maybe to save someone in return. Subscribe to the Ethical Echo and never miss a heartbeat of warmth, hope, and inspiration. Because sometimes it's the smallest paw prints that leave the deepest marks on our hearts. Thank you for watching. And always remember, every act of kindness sends a ripple through the world. Be that ripple.